My name is Sarah Chen. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, my parents stood up at their 35th wedding anniversary dinner and announced to 25 guests, "We're taking the whole family on a Mediterranean cruise next month for another celebration." Everyone clapped. My sister jumped up squealing with excitement. I smiled, already imagining turquoise water and ancient cities. My first real vacation in years. Then I made the mistake of asking a simple question. "What's our departure date?" My father looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. My mother's smile froze. And in front of every guest in that room, my dad said, "You don't need to know, Sarah. You're not part of this cruise. Someone has to stay behind and take care of the kids." 25 pairs of eyes. 25 witnesses to the moment my family told me I wasn't really family at all. But here's what they didn't know. I had a secret. One I'd been building for 3 years. And that night, something inside me finally broke free. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story hits home for you, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now, to understand why I walked away from everything I knew, let me take you back. The Chen family lives in a brick townhouse in the suburbs of Seattle. 3 bedrooms, manicured front garden, the kind of house that whispers success to anyone walking past. My father, David Chan, retired 2 years ago from his position as operations director at a tech supply company. My mother, Linda, has never worked outside the home, but she'll remind you she's busier than any executive running the community garden committee, organizing charity auctions, maintaining what she calls our family's standing. Then there's my sister, Emily, 3 years younger than me, married to Marcus Reed, a tech sales director whose commission checks she mentions in every conversation. They have 2 kids, a 6-year-old named Jackson and a 4-year-old named Lily, and a brand new Tesla Model X that always gets the covered parking spot at our parents' house. My 12-year-old Toyota Camry gets the street. "Sarah, move your car," my mother would say whenever I visited. Marcus is bringing the Tesla, and people notice what's parked in front first. I never questioned it. I just moved my car. That's the thing about being invisible in your family. You stop noticing all the small ways they've already decided you don't matter. I work as a freelance data analyst. Mostly remote contracts. Flexible hours, decent income. Nothing flashy by Chen family standards, but I never told them about the other thing I do. The thing I started 3 years ago, after my life shattered in a way I didn't see coming. I never told them I'd learned to see what others couldn't. Let me paint you a picture of what helping out looks like in the Chen family. Thanksgiving. I arrive at 5:30 a.m. to prep the turkey. I set the table with my mother's Royal Doulton china, the set I'm forbidden to use, only to clean. I coordinate 7 dishes, arrange centerpieces, time everything perfectly. Emily arrives at 1 p.m. in a silk blouse, kisses everyone, and sits down like a guest. Christmas, same pattern, plus wrapping every gift my mother bought because her hands hurt. Funny how her hands work fine for her weekly tennis matches. Birthday parties for my niece and nephew. I'm the planner, the entertainer, the cleanup crew, and the free babysitter rolled into one. Last year, I spent 9 hours running Jackson's superhero party while Emily got a spa day because she was stressed. The one time I said I couldn't make a family event because I had a client deadline, my mother's voice went ice cold. Family comes first, Sarah. We all make sacrifices. Except I'm the only one sacrificing anything. The breaking point comes in tiny moments. Like the Christmas I opened my gift, a set of kitchen towels with World's Best Aunt embroidered across them. Emily gave it to me with a proud smile. I used them. I used them every single time I came over to cook, clean, and watch her children. Want to know when I realized the truth? It hit me one Wednesday night while I was scrubbing my mother's burnt casserole dish after another family dinner I'd prepared alone. I couldn't remember the last time anyone invited me somewhere without expecting me to work. 3 years ago, my entire life collapsed. I'd been with someone named Ryan for 5 years. We talked about marriage, children, a future. Then one Saturday morning, he sat across from me at our kitchen table and said words I'll never forget. I love you, Sarah, but I don't think I'm in love with you anymore. You're just there. You're always just there. Always just there. Like a lamp. Like background noise. After he left, I wandered into a vintage shop downtown in a fog. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe something to fill the emptiness. That's when I saw it. A Nikon D750 camera. Used but pristine, priced at $220. I bought it with money I should have saved. I told no one. That camera became my secret life. I started photographing things most people walk past without seeing. Elderly men feeding pigeons in parks. The exhausted faces of night shift workers at bus stops. The weathered hands of street musicians. People who society treats as invisible. The same way my family treats me. I called the series Unseen Voices. I created an anonymous Instagram account. No face, no name, just the work. Over 3 years, I gathered 15,000 followers. People who saw what I saw. I kept the camera wrapped in a vintage scarf at the back of my closet. It was the only thing that was truly mine. 4 weeks before my parents' anniversary party, I got an email I almost deleted as spam. It was from a gallery in Portland, Oregon, the Ember Gallery, asking if I'd be interested in discussing my work for a potential exhibition. I stared at that email for 30 minutes. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. But I didn't reply. Not immediately. Because good things didn't happen to people like me. There's one person in my family who actually sees me. Her name is Janet, and she's my mother's older sister. Aunt Janet is what my mother calls the family rebel. She never married. She followed her passion for textile art instead of getting what my mother calls a real life. 15 years ago, she moved to Bend, Oregon to open a small bookshop cafe with a weaving studio upstairs. My mother hasn't approved since. Janet wasted her education, my mother likes to say. She could have had everything, but she chose to play with thread. I've been calling Aunt Janet every Sunday evening for 8 years. My mother doesn't know. It was Aunt Janet who first saw my photographs. I'd sent her one, testing the waters, and her response made me cry. Sarah, this is breathtaking. You have a real gift. Nobody had ever called anything I did breathtaking. She encouraged me to keep shooting, keep posting. And she was the one who, for weeks before my parents' anniversary, said something that changed everything. Sarah, I hope this is okay, but I sent your Instagram to someone I know. A gallery owner in Portland named Diana Cole. She's looking for emerging artists. I nearly dropped my phone. Aunt Janet, that's the gallery that contacted me. I know, sweetheart. Diana told me she wants to discuss a solo show. Silence. My heart hammering. But that's real. That's a real career. Yes, it is, her voice was gentle but firm. And you deserve it. You don't need permission to pursue what makes you alive. I learned that lesson too late. You don't have to. That night, I replied to Diana Cole's email. Now let me bring you to the night everything shattered and rebuilt itself. My parents' 35th wedding anniversary. A milestone worthy of celebration, according to my mother, which meant 25 guests, a catered menu that I would coordinate to save costs, and an evening of celebrating the Chen family's decades of picture-perfect marriage. Preparation started a week early. I took 4 days off from client work to help set up. I ordered arrangements, white orchids and roses per my mother's exact specifications. I handwrote place cards in the calligraphy she insisted upon. I coordinated with caterers, pressed linens, polished crystal stemware that had been a wedding gift 35 years ago. On the day itself, I arrived at 6 a.m. wearing jeans and a sweatshirt because there was no point dressing up when I'd be working for the next 12 hours. By 6 p.m., the house looked perfect. Candles flickered on every surface. The dining area stretched with my mother's finest china set for 25. I'd changed into a navy dress. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would draw attention. Sarah, my mother's voice caught me in the hallway. She looked me over, frowning slightly. Is that what you're wearing? It's navy. I thought it was appropriate. It's fine, I suppose. Just stay out of the way. Tonight is about your father and me. I nodded. I always nodded. Guests began arriving at 7. The usual crowd, old colleagues, book club friends, neighbors whose gardens competed with ours. 25 people who thought they knew the Chin family. None of them knew me at all. And in 3 hours, that wouldn't matter anymore. Emily arrived at 7:20, perfectly timed for maximum entrance. She swept through the door in an emerald wrap dress, rice she announced to the first person who complimented her, with Marcus behind her in a tailored navy suit and their 2 children dressed like they'd stepped out of a catalog. My mother rushed to embrace her, exclaiming over how stunning she looked, how handsome Marcus was, how adorable the grandchildren were. I watched from the kitchen doorway holding a tray of bruschetta. Everyone, you remember my daughter Emily and her husband Marcus, my mother announced to the room. Marcus just got promoted to senior director. We're so proud. Applause rippled through. Smiles. Congratulations. My mother never mentioned that I'd done Marcus's tax returns for 4 years, free of charge, naturally. I circulated with appetizers, refilled wine glasses, answered questions from guests who didn't recognize me. Are you the caterer? One man asked, reaching for a canopy. Before I could answer, my mother appeared. Oh, that's Sarah, my other daughter. She's helping tonight. The man smiled politely and turned away. My mother didn't notice. She never did. At one point, Marcus approached me with Lily squirming in his arms and Jackson pulling at his jacket. Hey, can you take them? Emily and I need to mingle. Not would you mind? Not please. Just can you take them? Like handing off luggage. I took them. I fed them dinner in the kitchen. I wiped Lily's face when she spilled juice on her dress. I read Jackson 2 stories to keep him from running into the party and disrupting things. When I finally emerged, dessert was being served. I hadn't eaten anything all day. No one had saved me a plate. The announcement came at 8:30, right after my mother's tiramisu was served. My father stood up, tapping his wine glass with a fork. The room fell silent. 25 faces turned toward him with expectant smiles. Linda and I want to thank you all for being here tonight, he began, his voice warm with rehearsed charm. 35 years of marriage. Building this family, this life, this home. My mother beamed. Emily reached for Marcus's hand. I stood near the kitchen doorway, still holding a dirty dessert plate. And to celebrate this milestone, my father continued, we have a special announcement. He paused for effect. My mother's eyes sparkled. Next month, we're taking the whole family on a Mediterranean cruise. 2 weeks sailing from Barcelona. A second celebration, just the Chens. The room erupted. How wonderful. What a gift. You deserve it. Emily actually squealed. Dad, that's incredible. The kids are going to love it. I felt something lift in my chest. The whole family. That meant me too. For once, I wouldn't be cooking or cleaning or babysitting. I'd actually be included. I stepped forward, allowing myself a small smile. That sounds amazing. What's our departure date? The question hung in the air. My father's expression shifted. He glanced at my mother. Something passed between them. A look I'd seen 1,000 times but never understood until that moment. Sarah, he said slowly. You don't need to know the departure date. The room went quiet. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the tense quiet of something going terribly wrong. I don't understand, I heard myself say. My father cleared his throat. Because you're not going. 25 pairs of eyes. That's how many people watched my father tell me I wasn't part of the family vacation. Someone needs to stay behind, my mother added, as if this were obvious. Emily and Marcus need a real vacation. That means you'll watch the children. But I started. Sarah, honestly, my mother's tone sharpened. You don't have anything important scheduled. Emily works hard. She deserves a break. Emily works hard. Emily, who hadn't held a job since Jackson was born. Emily, who had a part-time nanny and still complained about exhaustion. It's just 2 weeks, Marcus added, not even looking at me. The kids love you. I stood there in my plain navy dress holding a dirty plate while 25 people watched me be erased from my own family. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked away. One woman leaned toward her husband and whispered something. I caught the words, poor thing. She must be used to this. The wine glass in my hand trembled. I set down the plate, set down the glass, because I didn't trust myself. Of course, I heard myself say. I understand. I smiled the smile I'd learned to wear after 32 years of being the one who helps out, the one who doesn't complain, the one who is always, always just there. But something inside me cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Like a fault line before an earthquake. I excused myself to the kitchen. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes. And for the first time in my life, I started planning something just for me. The party continued without me. Obviously. I stayed in the kitchen mechanically washing dishes while laughter drifted in from the other room. At some point, Emily appeared, her emerald dress swishing. Sarah, don't be upset, she said, touching my arm. You know how it is. Marcus and I really need this time together. Work has been so stressful with the kids and everything. I kept washing. I understand. Besides, you're so good with Jackson and Lily. They'll barely notice we're gone. I rinsed a wine glass, set it carefully in the rack, said nothing. Emily sighed the way she always does when she thinks I'm being difficult. Look, it's just 2 weeks and you don't have like a boyfriend or anything holding you back. Your schedule is flexible. Flexible. That word again. As if my time had no value because I controlled it. Marcus made a list, she continued, pulling out her phone. Their schedules, dietary restrictions, Lily's new thing with textures, Jackson's soccer practice times. I'll send you everything. She didn't ask if I was willing. She just assumed. That's when Marcus appeared, loosening his tie. All sorted? Great. We're heading out early tomorrow to start packing. Emily, your mom wants family photos before we leave. They were gone before I could respond. Not that I would have. Not that I ever did. But as I stood there alone in my mother's kitchen, staring at the detailed instructions Emily had just texted me, a single thought crystallized. They don't see me as family. They see me as staff. And staff can resign. It was almost 1 a.m. when I found the emails. The last guests had finally left. My parents had gone to bed exhausted from accepting congratulations all night. I was alone in the living room folding tablecloths when I realized I needed to send a file to a client whose deadline I pushed back for this party. My laptop was at home. My mother's was on the side table. She won't mind, I told myself. She'd borrowed my things 1,000 times without asking. I opened the laptop. Her email was already open. And there it was. My name in a subject line from last week. Mediterranean cruise Sarah situation. My finger hovered over the trackpad. I knew I shouldn't. I knew whatever I found would hurt. I clicked anyway. The thread was between my mother and Emily starting 2 weeks before the party. From Linda Chain to Emily Reed. Keep Sarah here for the kids. She doesn't have anything important going on anyway. Marcus was right about this, it's like having free childcare. She should honestly be grateful we give her a purpose. And Emily's reply. Totally agree, Mom. She'll probably feel useful for once. It's kind of pathetic honestly, but at least it works out for us. I read those words 4 times to make sure I understood them correctly. Free childcare. She should be grateful. Kind of pathetic. I took screenshots. I emailed them to myself. I deleted my email from the sent folder and cleared the browser history. Then I sat in my mother's dark kitchen in the house where I'd grown up and finally understood exactly what I was to them. I drove home at 2 a.m. through empty streets. My apartment was small, a one-bedroom in a building that hadn't been renovated since the 90s. Beige walls, second-hand furniture. My mother had called it depressing the one time she visited. But it was mine. The only space where I could breathe. I sat in the darkness staring at my phone. The email from Diana Cole glowed on the screen. We'd exchanged messages about a potential meeting. She wanted to see my full portfolio in person. She was genuinely excited about the series. I could go. I could actually go. I picked up my phone and called the only person who would understand. Aunt Janet answered on the second ring despite the late hour. "Sarah, what's wrong?" I told her everything. The announcement. The humiliation. The emails. My voice cracked exactly once when I read the words free childcare out loud. When I finished, there was silence. Then Aunt Janet said something I'll never forget. "Sarah, I have a guest room above the bookshop. I need help with morning shifts anyway. And that gallery? It's 40 minutes from my place. Aunt Janet, I can't just." "Yes, you can. You can leave. You can choose yourself for once. The only person stopping you is you." I hung up at 3 a.m. By 7, I'd started packing. 3 suitcases. My camera equipment. My laptop. The vintage scarf that had wrapped my Nikon for 3 years. I left behind the kitchen towels that said "World's Best Aunt." For the first time in 32 years, I was choosing myself. If you've made it this far, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between your family and yourself? Have you ever stood at a place where staying meant losing who you were? Tell me in the comments. And if this story matters to you, hit that like button. Now let me tell you what happened when I told them I was leaving. 3 days before my family's cruise, I drove to my parents' house one last time. My mother was in the living room organizing vacation outfits. Emily sat on the couch scrolling through excursion reviews. Marcus was upstairs on a call. My father was reading the paper in his chair, present in body, absent in attention. "I need to tell you something," I said from the doorway. My mother barely looked up. "If it's about the children's schedule, Emily already sent it." "It's not about that," I steadied my voice. "I'm not watching the kids. I won't be available." That got their attention. Emily's head snapped up. My mother's hands froze over a pile of sundresses. "What do you mean not available?" my mother asked. "I have a work opportunity in Oregon. I'm leaving tomorrow." "Oregon?" My father lowered his paper. "What kind of work?" "It's professional. Something I've been working toward." I didn't owe them details. I didn't owe them anything. Emily's face twisted. "Sarah, you can't be serious. I'm counting on you. We planned everything around this." "You planned around me without asking," I said quietly. "I'm not canceling my life because you assumed I didn't have one." The silence was deafening. Then my mother stood, her voice cold. "This is incredibly selfish, Sarah. Emily needs your help. Family comes first. Family comes first," I repeated. "Except when it came to inviting me on the cruise." Her mouth opened, then closed. For once, Linda Chen had nothing to say. My father cleared his throat. "If you leave, don't expect us to welcome you back." "I understand," I said. And for the first time, I meant it. The next 36 hours were a master class in emotional manipulation. My mother called 8 times. Each voicemail more dramatic. "You're destroying this family, Sarah. I hope you can live with that. Your father hasn't spoken all day." Emily cried for hours. "The children keep asking where Aunt Sarah went. Emily took a different approach. Weaponized hurt. Sarah, I don't understand why you're doing this to me. I'm your sister. Don't you care about us at all? And then the text that almost broke me. You're going to end up alone, you know. Just like Aunt Janet. Is that what you want? I stared at that message for a long time. Just like Aunt Janet. They meant it as a threat. But Aunt Janet had her own business, her own art, her own life built on her terms. Aunt Janet was happy. Maybe ending up like Aunt Janet wasn't a curse. Maybe it was freedom. I turned off my phone. The last thing I did before leaving Seattle was walk through my empty apartment. 3 suitcases by the door. Everything else would stay. The second-hand couch, the beige walls, the life I'd been living for everyone else. I taped my key in an envelope and slid it under my landlord's door. Month-to-month lease, paid through February, clean break. I loaded my Camry as the sun came up. The same car my mother had been embarrassed by for years. It was going to carry me to a new life. I signed the contract on a Thursday afternoon, sitting at Diana's desk with sunlight streaming through the gallery windows. The document was straightforward. 12 photographs. Opening night scheduled for early September. The Ember Gallery would handle production, printing, framing, installation, promotion. I would receive 65% of all sales, with the gallery retaining 35%. Standard terms, Diana assured me. Fair terms. But as I read through the pages, my hands started shaking. Take your time, Diana said gently. This is big. It wasn't the business terms. It was seeing my name in official type. Artist Sarah Chen. A legal document recognizing my work had value. That I had value. I thought about all the times I'd done my family's taxes without credit. All the parties I'd organized without thanks. All the hours caring for children who would never know how much I'd given. Not once had my name appeared on anything celebrating my contribution. Until now. The exhibition title, Diana said, pointing to a line. I'd like your approval. We're proposing Unseen Voices, Stories of the Overlooked. It's perfect, I whispered. I signed my name. Diana countersigned. Her assistant notarized the pages with official stamps. When it was done, Diana handed me my copy. Congratulations, Sarah. You're officially a represented artist. I walked out holding that contract against my chest. Physical proof I wasn't nothing. That I'd never been nothing. For 3 years I'd built something in secret. Now finally it was stepping into light. While I was building my new life in Oregon, my family was discovering what my absence actually meant. I didn't witness these events firsthand. I heard about them later, pieced together from voicemails and one awkward call from my father. Apparently, the cruise was chaos. Without me there to babysit, Emily and Marcus couldn't enjoy a single adult dinner. Jackson threw tantrums because no one had packed his favorite snacks, something I always remembered. Lily developed an ear infection on day 5 and nobody could find the pediatrician's number because I'd always kept medical information. My mother spent most of the trip complaining the ship staff wasn't attentive enough. She sent food back 3 times. This isn't relaxing at all, she reportedly said. Who planned this? My father wisely didn't remind her she'd planned it. The texts started arriving on day 6. Sarah, where are the kids' medical records? Sarah, what's Jackson's bedtime routine? He won't sleep. Sarah, Lily won't eat anything. What does she like? I didn't respond. I was too busy selecting prints at a lab in Portland, choosing frames, meeting with a writer from Oregon Arts Quarterly who wanted to profile me. But here's the thing about absence. It teaches people what they took for granted. On day 8 of their cruise, Emily did something she'd never done. She searched my name online. And for the first time she found something other than a blank page. 8 weeks later I stood in the center of the Ember Gallery and couldn't believe it was real. 12 of my photographs hung on white walls, each one printed large and framed in simple black. The gallery glowed with warm light. A cellist played in the corner, Diana's idea. A bartender poured wine. 60 guests moved through the space. Local artists I'd met through Aunt Janet. Collectors Diana had invited. A journalist from the arts magazine already taking notes. People who had come specifically to see my work. My work. On gallery walls. With price tags that made me dizzy. I wore a charcoal dress. Simple. Elegant. My hair down. I'd even worn lipstick. Aunt Janet appeared beside me pressing a glass of wine into my hand. How do you feel? Terrified, I admitted. What if nobody connects with it? Someone already has, she nodded toward a woman in a tailored blazer examining the centerpiece of my exhibition, the park photograph. A small red dot had appeared beside it. That's Catherine Morrison. She collects emerging artists all over the Northwest. She just bought that piece for $2,800. $2,800 for something I created. Sarah, Diana approached grinning. I want to introduce you to someone from the magazine. They're considering a feature on you. Feature. Magazine. My face, my name, my story in print. I was halfway through that introduction when the gallery door opened and my world tilted. Emily and Marcus walked in looking completely out of place. Emily wore a floral dress better suited for brunch. Marcus had his phone out already frowning at something. They scanned the room with expressions I knew well. The look my family wore when encountering something outside their understanding. Then Emily saw me. Sarah, she rushed forward, arms outstretched like we were reuniting after a tragedy. Oh my God, we've been so worried. 60 guests turned to look. The cellist stopped mid-phrase before continuing. Emily, I kept my voice calm. This is unexpected. We had to come, her eyes were wide. We drove down yesterday. Mom found your Instagram. She's been calling everyone trying to find you. Marcus appeared behind her nodding at me like we were colleagues. Sarah, interesting space. It's a gallery, I said. My gallery opening actually. Emily blinked, taking in the photographs for the first time. Taking in the guests, the wine, the price tags. You did all this? Her voice was genuinely confused. Since when? Since 3 years ago, I said. You never asked what I did with my time. Aunt Janet materialized at my side, a quiet wall of support. Across the room Diana was watching carefully, ready to step in if needed. Emily leaned closer, lowering her voice. Sarah, I have news. I'm pregnant again. Number 3. And I really need you to come home. Marcus's hours are insane. Mom won't help with Jackson and Lily. I need you. There it was. Not congratulations on the exhibition. Not I'm sorry. Just need. Always their need. The words hung between us. I need you. How many times had I heard that? How many times had I dropped everything, rearranged my life, made myself small enough to fit the space they carved out for me? Emily, I said quietly, I'm in the middle of my opening. I know, and this is nice, really, she waved her hand at my life's work like it was a craft fair hobby. But we can talk about that later. Right now I need to know when you're coming back. She's not coming back, Aunt Janet's voice cut clean. She lives here now. Marcus stepped forward, irritation flickering. With respect, Janet, this is family business. Family business? Aunt Janet laughed sharp and short. You mean the family that uninvited her from vacation and called her free childcare in emails she wasn't supposed to see? Emily went pale. Around us guests had stopped pretending not to listen. The journalist, I noticed, was writing rapidly. We didn't mean it like that, Emily stammered. How exactly did you mean it? This came from Catherine Morrison, the collector. She stood nearby, wine in hand, watching with undisguised interest. I'm sorry, Marcus said tightly. Who are you? Someone who just paid $2,800 for that young woman's art, Catherine nodded toward my photograph. And someone curious why her family thinks she should abandon her career to babysit for free. The temperature dropped. Emily looked at me, desperation in her eyes. Sarah, please, let's talk privately. Let me pause here. If your family showed up at the most important night of your life not to celebrate but to pull you back to a life where you didn't exist, what would you say? Tell me in the comments. I really want to know. Now let me tell you what I said. I didn't retreat. For 32 years I'd made myself small. I'd whispered, accommodated, disappeared. Not tonight. I stepped forward into the center of my own exhibition and spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. Emily, I understand you're pregnant. Congratulations, genuinely. But I won't be coming back to Seattle to be your childcare. Sarah, I'm not finished. My voice didn't waver. You can hire help. You can hire 2 people. Marcus makes enough and you've never had trouble spending before. What you can't do is hire me because I was never paid. Emily's mouth opened then closed. I could feel the gallery leaning in. This isn't a hobby, I continued, gesturing to the walls. This is my work. I've been building this for 3 years while everyone assumed I had nothing important going on. And just so we're clear, I pointed to the photograph Catherine had purchased. That piece sold for $2,800. Tonight I've sold 5 pieces totaling $11,000. My work has value. I have value. And I will not throw that away to go back to being free help. Silence. Complete silence. Then Diana started to clap. Aunt Janet joined. Catherine raised her wine glass. One by one other guests followed. Applause rippled through the gallery. Not for my photographs. For me. For finally standing up and saying enough. I didn't smile triumphantly. I didn't gloat. I simply looked at my sister and said, I hope your pregnancy is healthy. I truly do. Then I turned and walked away. The gallery door opened again 30 minutes later. I was talking with the magazine journalist when I saw them. My parents standing in the entrance like they'd stepped out of a different world. My mother wore her Burberry coat, the one for important occasions. My father stood behind her in a sport coat, looking uncomfortable. They scanned the room until they found me. Linda Chen walked through my gallery like she owned it. Sarah, her voice carried the tone she'd used when I was a child who'd done something wrong. We need to talk. The journalist raised an eyebrow. I excused myself and moved to intercept before they caused more of a scene. You came all this way, I said evenly. Of course we did, my mother's voice trembled with indignation. You disappeared. You abandoned your family when we needed you. And now I find you here playing artist while your sister is pregnant and struggling. Emily is pregnant and financially comfortable, I corrected. She's not struggling. She's inconvenienced. Don't be cruel, Sarah. This isn't you. You're right, I took a breath. It isn't the me you wanted. The me you could count on to do whatever you asked without question. But that Sarah was never seen. She was just used. My father cleared his throat. Sarah, your mother is trying to say, I know what she's trying to say, Dad. I've heard it my whole life. Family comes first. Make sacrifices. Don't be selfish. I met his eyes. But I wasn't invited on the cruise, remember? So which is it? Am I family or not? Neither had an answer. My mother recovered first. The cruise was one trip, she said dismissively. You're overreacting. Someone had to stay with the children. Someone, I repeated. Why me? Why always me? Because you have the time. You don't have a husband. You don't have children of your own. What else would you be doing? I'd wondered if I'd ever use those screenshots. Part of me hoped I wouldn't have to. But standing there surrounded by my work and my witnesses, I realized some truths need to be spoken. I pulled out my phone. Let me read you something, my voice steady. This is an email you sent Emily before the anniversary party. My mother's face went white. Keep Sarah here for the kids. She doesn't have anything important going on. It's like having free childcare. She should be grateful we give her a purpose. The gallery went silent. I could feel every eye. And Emily replied, I continued. She'll probably feel useful for once. It's kind of pathetic, but at least it works out for us. Emily, standing a few feet away, looked like she wanted to disappear. Sarah, my father started. Where did you? It doesn't matter where I found it. I lowered my phone. What matters is you wrote it. I'm not reading this to embarrass anyone. I'm reading it so you understand why I left. You didn't see me as family. You saw me as staff. And staff can resign. My mother's mouth opened, closed, opened again. For the first time, Linda Chen was speechless. The journalist was still writing. It was Marcus who broke first. This is ridiculous, he snapped, stepping forward. Sarah, you're making a scene over nothing. So your family asked you to help. Big deal. That's what families do. Not everyone gets to run off and play artist. Play, Catherine Morrison's voice cut through like ice. I just spent $2,800 on her work. I don't pay that for playing. Marcus turned, his composure cracking. With respect, ma'am, you don't know this situation. This is between us. Actually, I know exactly what I need to know. Catherine set down her glass. I know that young woman spent years photographing people society overlooks. And I know her own family treated her exactly the same way. Murmurs rippled. Guests staring openly. The attention my mother had always craved, but not like this. Never like this. My mother tried to salvage it. This is a misunderstanding. Family jokes taken out of context. A joke. Another voice. A woman in her 60s with gray hair. I'd sold her a photograph earlier. Telling your daughter she has nothing important. Calling her free childcare. What's funny about that? More murmurs. More judgment. The social standing my mother had spent decades building was crumbling in real time. I think, Aunt Janet said gently, it's time for you to leave. My mother's face flushed. My father took her arm. Emily was crying now. Real humiliated tears. Marcus stood frozen, finally understanding his tactics meant nothing here. Sarah, my mother said, voice shaking. You'll regret this. No, I said quietly. I really won't. My mother left first. She turned without another word, pulling my father behind her. The door closed with a soft click that somehow echoed louder than a slam. Emily lingered, mascara smudged, arms wrapped around herself like a scolded child. Sarah, her voice cracked. I didn't know you felt this way. I thought you liked helping. No, you didn't, I said, not unkindly. You didn't think about it at all. None of you did. Marcus put a hand on Emily's shoulder. For once he said nothing. I hope your pregnancy is healthy, I added. I hope your kids are happy. But I won't be the free aunt anymore. If you want to be in my life, it has to be different. It has to be equal. Emily nodded, tears streaming. I understand. I wasn't sure she did. But it wasn't my job to make her understand anymore. They left through the same door. The gallery exhaled collectively. Aunt Janet wrapped an arm around my shoulders. You okay? I think so, I let out a shaky laugh. I just confronted my entire family in public at my own show. You did, she smiled. And you were incredible. Diana approached, pressing fresh wine into my hand. For what it's worth, I've been doing this 15 years. Never seen an opening quite like this. Is that good or bad? She smiled. Let's just say everyone here will remember your name. And that Sarah Chun is exactly what an artist needs. I looked around at my photographs, my gallery, my new life. For once I didn't feel invisible. By closing that night, I'd sold 9 of 12 photographs. $16,500 total. $10,700 would go to me, 65% like the contract promised. Diana handed me the printout as the last guest left. Not bad for an opening, especially one with unexpected drama. I stared at the numbers. $10,700. More than I'd made in 4 months of data work. Catherine wants to commission a piece, Diana continued. She has a cabin near Mount Hood. Wants you to photograph the area. A commission. Private collectors often work this way. She liked your perspective. She wants to see what you do with her landscape. She handed me a card. Her assistant's contact. Call next week. I tucked it carefully into my bag next to my contract and the magazine card. Diana added, the writer said she has enough for a feature. They're considering you for next month's issue. Feature. Magazine. My name and face and story in print. Aunt Janet helped me carry the unsold photographs back to my room that night. 3 pieces waiting for the right people. But 9 was better than 12. 9 meant people saw value in what I created. I set the sales summary on my desk and photographed it. Not to post. Just to remember. The Ember Gallery. Sales to Sarah Chen. $10,700. Proof. Physical proof I wasn't nothing. That I'd never been nothing at all. 3 months later my new life had rhythm. I woke at 5:30, watched sunrise over the mountains from my window, and opened the wandering page by 6. Morning shift until noon, pouring coffee, shelving books, chatting with regulars who now knew me as Janet's niece, the photographer. Afternoons belonged to my work. I'd rented a small studio space 2 blocks away, just big enough for editing equipment and a small printing setup. The gallery show had closed, but Diana had already scheduled another for spring. This time a series called Thresholds. Photographs of doorways, edges, the spaces between belonging and solitude. It felt right. The magazine feature came out in November. My face on the cover of Oregon Arts Quarterly next to the headline, The Artist Who Learned to See Herself. The article told my story, edited with names changed. But the truth was there. The invisibility. The breaking point. The choice. People reached out. Women who'd been the family helper, the reliable one, the one everyone forgot to thank. Their messages filled my inbox like a chorus. I thought I was alone. You gave me courage to leave. Thank you for showing it's possible. My family reached out too. Eventually. Emily texted after the baby was born. A girl named Sophie. She sent a photo. I sent congratulations and a gift card. Nothing more. My mother called once. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail asking if I'd gotten this out of my system yet. I deleted it. But my father surprised me. His email arrived on a Wednesday evening. 3 sentences. Sarah, I saw the magazine. I'm proud of you. That one I kept. Today I'm sitting in my studio looking out at the Cascades. The Nikon I bought from that vintage shop still sits on my shelf, older now, worn but still working. Next to it sits a newer model purchased with money from my art. Both cameras matter. One reminded me to see. The other proves people saw me back. My second exhibition opens next month. Thresholds. 15 new photographs exploring edges of connection. Where family ends and self begins. Where obligation becomes exploitation. Where love becomes something else entirely. I think it might be my best work yet. Aunt Janet stops by every morning with coffee and commentary. Diana checks in weekly with collector updates and opportunities. The wandering page regulars request the photographer's table by the window where I sometimes edit between customers. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. But I'm seen. And that's enough. As for my family, we exist in a new form now. Holiday cards. Birthday texts. Occasional updates about the children. Civil, distant, healthier than before. I haven't been back to Seattle. Maybe someday I will. But only as a visitor. Never as the help. The other day I found an old photograph. A self-portrait I'd taken in my Seattle apartment back when I was still invisible. The woman in that photo looked exhausted, defeated, like she was waiting for permission to exist. I deleted it. That woman is gone. In her place is someone who takes up space. Who creates beautiful things. Who says no when she means no and yes, only when she chooses. Someone who finally let herself be seen. That's the real story. Not revenge. Not triumph. Just freedom. From a psychological view, Sarah's story shows something called parentification, when a child takes on adult responsibilities without recognition or return. She also filled the scapegoat role, the family member whose needs are always deprioritized while a golden child receives endless resources. Here's what I want you to take from this. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal. It's not abandonment. It's recognizing you cannot pour from an empty cup and people who truly love you won't ask you to. If you're in a situation like Sarah's, remember your worth isn't measured by how useful you are to others. It's inherent. It was always there. And sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting back. It's walking away. Building something of your own. Letting your life speak louder than any argument. You deserve that. We all do.